Uh, Today we are discussing about the relation between the Lagrangian function capital L and Lagrangian density. As you know, the dependence of Lagrangian density is called the parametric dependence, as and the Lagrangian function is the function of psi and its time derivative, that is psi dot, and time of the system. This is called functional dependence, and this dependence can be regarded as continuum limit of functional derivative. So we can write delta L, that will be the function of psi dot and t, or we can say this is equals to summation delta L over delta psi plus delta L over delta psi dot delta psi dot. This comes from the partial derivatives relations, and this can be written as the summation I limit delta tau I tends to 0 1 over delta tau I del L over del psi plus 1 over delta tau I delta L over delta psi dot delta tau. Now limit delta tau I tends to 0 1 over delta tau I delta L over delta psi, known as the functional derivative and denoted by del cross L over del cross psi. Similarly, we can write for del L over del psi dot. So we can write delta L equals to del cross L over del cross psi delta psi plus del cross L over del cross psi dot delta psi dot d tau. Since you know del cross L over del psi dot del over del t delta psi dt equals to minus del over del t del cross L over del cross psi dot delta psi dt. Therefore, we can write delta L dt equals to integration over dt and integration of del cross L over del cross psi minus del over del t del cross L over del cross psi dot delta psi d tau. As you know that the relation between the Lagrangian function and the Lagrangian density can be written as L equals to integration of volume integration of Lagrangian density over d tau. So we can write integration of delta L dt equals to double integration of delta Lagrangian density d tau dt. Thus, comparing the equation number A with the Euler equation, we find del cross L over del cross psi equals to del Lagrangian density over del psi minus the divergence of del Lagrangian density over del gradient of psi, and del cross L over del cross psi dot equals to del Lagrangian density over del psi dot. These two are relations are the relation between the Lagrangian function and the Lagrangian density. Thank you.